everyone. Today we're going to be thinking about choices, and sometimes little choices that can make a big difference. It was May 1979, and before in these videos I've told you about how I had a very bad car accident driving too fast, a young 17-year-old, inexperienced, overtaking where I shouldn't have, losing control of the car was spinning, rolling onto its side and top, and then rolling down over a bank. And it looked like to all those watching, because there were several other cars around, that we would be seriously injured or even dead. I'd been driving at least 60 miles an hour. Anyway, we all got out of the car without a scratch on us and climbed up the bank, which was about 15-20 feet high, I guess. You couldn't see the road from where we landed. And so we climbed up the bank, and there was at least 3 or 4 car drivers, amazed to see us come up. And in those days, it was 1979, there was no mobiles. Today, you get an accident, you call one mobile call, and all the emergency services come. All the accidents I've seen or been involved in since, you get all free emergency services there, and it's all taken care of. Well, we had no one. And it was a really bad accident. We had absolutely no one. There was a lady there who was travelling from Saltash to Callington, and she had room in her car for 4, and there was 5 of us in the car. And so she said to 4 of us, "Oh, you could get in there." And then there was an ex-police officer who said to me, "Oh, come in with me," And there was a couple of them in his car, and I got in the back, and he was obviously sort of the right guy, as it were, because he understood, and he didn't give me a hard time, I think he was firm but nice, And then all of a sudden Sharon, who was going in the other car with the other 3, made a choice. She suddenly decided, Martin's on his own. And she came in the car with me. Now, I want you to know, she'd not been my girlfriend. It was just all friends in the car. We were going to a local young farmer's farm walk. But that small decision made a huge impact on both our lives. We're both obviously upset. So, we're sat in the back seat, my arm around her. And within 2 days, I'd asked her out. And here we are, over 40 years later, married for many, many years. And it all started with one choice. Little choices can make a huge difference. And so today I want to read to you part of the story that Jesus told of the prodigal son. And in this, of course, we find there are some choices. Jesus continued, "There was a man who had 2 sons. The younger one said to his father, 'Father, give me my share of the estate.' So he divided his estate between them. Not long after that, the younger son got together all he had, set off for a distant country, and there squandered his wealth in wild living. After he had spent everything there was a severe famine in that whole country, and he began to be in need. So he went and hired himself to a citizen of that country, who sent him to his fields to feed the pigs. He longed to fill his stomach with the pods that the pigs were eating, but no one gave him anything. When he came to his senses, he said, 'How many of my father's hired men have food to spare? And here I am starving to death. I will set out, go back to my father and say to him, Father, I've sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired men. So he got up and went to his father. But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion for him. He ran to his son, threw his arms around him and kissed him. The son said to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I'm no longer worthy to be called your son. But the father said to his servants, Quick, bring the best robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger, sandals on his feet. Bring the fatted calf and kill it. Let's have a feast and celebrate. For the son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found. And so they began to celebrate. As I record this today, my mum, who's over 95 years of age, is lying on her deathbed. Every day I go and visit her, and she's getting weaker each day, and sometimes she's able to talk a little and sometimes not. And each day I'm able to read a short passage from the Bible with her and say a prayer with her and just hold her hand. And it's precious after a whole year hardly seeing her at all now, because she's end of life. I'm allowed to go in each day. Obviously you have your test and you wear your PPE and so on, but it's a privilege to go and see her. And it's sad too, even struggling to do this video because of the sadness, but yet there's also, she's at peace, and there's a peace in my heart because I know that she, a long time ago, made a decision, a choice to follow Jesus. I can tell you a little, I know I spoke about that recently, but obviously, it's on my mind, and I want to share where I am in life. And so, again, if I go back, it's about 45 years ago, and I remember as a teenager, Mum was very restless, and she would say now that it was because she was looking for something. She was looking for something to fill the hole in her life. There was something missing, and she's trying to find it. And now, in our family, as I was growing up, on Saturday afternoons, I think before we milked the cows, we used to watch the wrestling on the ITV. World of Sport, right? Some of you are old enough will remember this. It'd be on about 4 o'clock-ish Saturday afternoon. And so Mum and Dad and all the family used to love the wrestling. Well, at one particular time, all these professional wrestlers came to Lansing and put on a big show. And so Mum was really keen, got tickets and so on, and off we went. And we were on the stage. We were sort of looking down on the wrestling ring. And Mum was absolutely horrified because she realised that night that the whole thing was fixed, that none of, what they were doing, it was all acting. And when we came out of that, Mum and Dad never ever watched wrestling on the TV again. And then I remember once we went to stock car racing, just like trying all these things to bring a bit of excitement, bring a bit of life into her life. And then finally she, as I've said before in a video, she invited the local minister, Reverend John Hattersley, to come down and talk to her. And he very simply prayed with her, but also asked her, have you ever invited Jesus Christ into your life to be your Lord and Saviour, to be your King, to be your friend? And she'd always resisted that. But now he just shared very gently, and she received Jesus into her life. And my goodness, there was a change. All right, Mum was still bossy, those of you who know her know that she's very strong-willed, still now, strong-willed. That's probably what's keeping her alive. But, her whole life changed. And Jesus became the center of it. And there was a much more peaceful man there. And it was because she made a choice. In the story I read to you of the prodigal son made several choices. The first choice was now I'm assuming here, and it seems to me that the father had a farm and that the two brothers were helping on the farm. And the younger son, it seemed, he wasn't interested in farming and he just wanted out. And so he goes to father and says, look, can I make a settlement right now and just get out and go and do something else? Now, actually, there's nothing wrong with this choice. On the face of it, if you don't like the work you're in, and you want to go and do something else, that's okay. So he makes one choice. And father is very gracious to him and gives him his part of the inheritance, or what would be part of the inheritance, and the son's, looking to see what he can do with it. That's choice one. Choice number two, he decides to put distance between himself and the family. Again, this could be okay. Sometimes we need to break the chains from our parents so that we become our own person. There's nothing wrong in that. And so he goes to a distant land, and quite often now people have to move away for work or for whatever reason, or for love or whatever. And again, there's nothing wrong in a sense with this choice. But then comes the third choice. It said he wasted his money in riotous living. Here's where the choices go wrong. He could have gone to a foreign land. He could have set up a business. He could have settled down. But no, he wasted everything. And his philosophy, I think, was eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow we die. Now, in a sense, it's not wrong to have a good time, but we also need to have an eye on tomorrow. We need to have an eye on where we're headed, and ultimately we need to have an eye on eternity. Well, he had a good time for a while, but then a famine came. And everything was lost. And the friends that he gained during the good times disappeared with the good times. And he was alone. One good thing here, he made a choice to live. He made a choice to live. But that choice cost him a lot. He went to work for a pig farmer, and for a Jew, this was the worst possible thing. The pig was an unclean animal. In fact, for the Jews, for the Muslims as well, and you didn't want to be caught near the pigs. You didn't want to touch the pigs because it made you ceremonially unclean. But he had no other choice, and at least it kept him alive. But while he was there, he made a good choice. He remembered his dad. And although he could remember the things he didn't like, he remembered the good things about his dad. Dad cared for his workers. Dad made sure they had enough food. I wouldn't have to feed pigs either. And so he makes a choice to go home. Sorry. Realizing he'd lost his way. And as he makes those steps back home, Father's waiting. Waiting to give him more than this young son could ever ask for. How amazing. And then, I didn't read it, but of course you got the story of the older son who never left home and had always tried to do what his father wanted. And of course he becomes angry, really upset, really bitter with how the younger son is received back. And I think this teaches us a lot about life. You see, the older son was like someone who'd always sort of known God and always sort of followed God, but didn't really know him as one who could save, one who could give eternal life. It's almost like the older brother was like one who was trying to work his way to heaven. I suppose what I want to say to you today is, look, we all have to make little choices all the time in life. I mean, let's think, if you go to the supermarket, not that I ever go to the supermarket, but, there's something you got to go to the supermarket, or maybe you order online, but, there's so many choices in there, You just go and choose a yogurt. Oh, if I was to say to you, can you go and get me a yogurt? Well, there's an aisle of yogurts. You can get me some chocolate. Well, there's an aisle of it. There's loads of it. Which do you want? If you want some drink, well, loads and loads. Choices all the time. And a lot of these choices, they're just about personal preference. But there are choices that will make a huge difference. And what I want to say to you today is this. I guess what Joshua said at the end of his life to the children of Israel. Choose today who you will follow. Joshua said, as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. But he said to the people, you can choose who to follow. See, this is the choice that matters. This is the choice that makes me have hope. When my mum is dying, I have hope because she made a choice a long time ago to follow Jesus. Have you made that choice to follow Jesus? If you're anything like me, you make that choice and then some days you sort of drift. I think it's time for us to reaffirm that choice to follow him. We're living in strange days, aren't we? We're very thankful the vaccine is being rolled out at an amazing pace. And, I had mine last week. I had a bit of a reaction to it, but that helped me to realise how bad COVID must be. And, we've got the choice, of course, to have the vaccine or not. And personally, I'm really glad to have that. And over the next weeks, we've got a choice to take things steady or not. Personally, I believe it's important we take things steady. Lots of choices. But as things open up and as things hopefully get back to a little bit of normality, what I would encourage you to do is this. Choose to follow Jesus. We've had a year, we've been faced with sorting out what is really important. And maybe more of you have watched videos like this because you've been wondering. And maybe you've had more time on your hands. Well, if things open up, make sure that you have time for Jesus. For he always has time for you. And like when the prodigal son came back, the story tells us, it's quite clear in the story, the father was waiting, watching for his son. Jesus is watching, waiting for you. Will you choose him? Have a good week. God bless you.